right, quick. Deal or no deal?
Seal.
Seal?
Yep.
So just things that rhyme with deal. Okay. That is a solid way to kick off the Tuesday show. Guys, welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by Sparky the Seal, also known as Shane Diefenbach.
Hello.
Shane, welcome back from your travels.
Thank you. I have returned. I have returned to Numbies.
To Numbies?
Yep.
To Pac-12 Media Numbies?
Uh-huh.
Numbies aren't great,
No.
to be honest with you.
The Numbies are like, well, no, I liked Orbeez.
Orbeez?
Yeah, you remember Orbeez?
What's an Orbeez?
Well, let's not get into Orbeez.
Okay.
Yeah. Stuff happened today. Stuff's been happening for the last week. You know what I'm so damn sick of? And we're going to talk about it.
The Pac-12 Media rights deal?
No, well, yes, but it's just kind of a part of life now. This is what we do.
Okay.
You know what I'm sick of is everybody has a source. Everyone has a source. Everybody knows what's happening. Everyone's, oh, now Arizona's leaving.
Everybody's an expert.
Now the Four Corners School is leaving. Oh, now. And it's just, here we go. Here's another rumor. And then the world sets on fire. People were just saying it. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. And people are like, okay, sure, we'll wait. But it's Arizona. It's looking like Arizona's going to be the 14th team. And everyone's like, shit.
Everybody's a conference realignment expert.
Yeah.
And it bugs me. And I said it on yesterday's show that I wasn't going to bite until somebody that I trusted as a credible source was going to say something. And Pete Thamel was that guy.
Even people that are credible, like, and the people that aren't like necessarily national people, I mean, I don't doubt what they're hearing. Like 100%. I do not doubt what people are hearing. That's in no way what I'm saying with this. Like I don't want to come across as this grumpy dude who's like, you're not a national brand. You don't have a source. I'm not going to believe you. It's like, no, you're probably hearing what you're hearing from a school or somebody who's affiliated with the school. But if you're part of a school that is negotiating into a different conference, you're going to say things that are beneficial to you. So
yeah,
just going to wait till something happens. Because as I've said before, the UCLA and USC movement to the Big Ten, there were virtually no rumors before. Yeah. That day, they were just like, hey, bye.
That was out of nowhere, for sure.
In Colorado, like, it had been talked about a little bit, but like, until it was like it was no like gradual build up. They're probably leaving, and they're gone. It was just kind of like, yeah, they're in conversation, and it was kind of like flatlining for like a month, and then all of a sudden they were like, later.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much how it worked. And then obviously with Colorado leaving last week, that there was just, I guess, intense pressure now on George Kliavkoff and really the Pac-12 as a conference to try and get something done in terms of a media rights deal. And they put together somewhat of a deal, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah.
So this is Pete Thamel's tweet from earlier today, just kind of outlining what was presented, saying the primary deal presented to the Pac-12 executives and ADs today was primarily an Apple streaming deal. The deal would have incentivized tiers, which would give it strong upside if certain subscription numbers were met. So let's get into that, right? We've seen some. Oh, you're raising your hand. Yes, Shane.
Thank you. Last year, when we were talking about this last year,
Yep.
This is something that we said was probably the best path.
Yeah,
was Apple TV.
But it was partially, at that point, we were saying it was the best path because we didn't think that the Pac-12 could get anything else. And I think that's what you've seen, right? The numbers in terms of this deal aren't great. It's certainly the worst of the Power Five. And I've got them outlined, right? So the Big 12 media rights deal that was signed in October, schools are reportedly getting just about $31 million per school. The ACC sending mid $30 million range checks. The Big 10 obviously has just a wild deal with $75 million annually from media rights per the 16 schools, and then the SEC hovering around $50 million per school. So the Pac-12 falling well short of that. The only way that they could really touch the Big 12, which again is fourth of the Power 5 schools, would be through subscriptions. And my biggest issue with this is it feels like the Pac-12, at this point, it's kind of funny. The only way that it seems like the Pac-12 media rights deal, or at least this one, gets done, is if the Pac-12 executives and ADs, the remaining ones, kind of follow a similar suit of the Larry Scott era of just like, we're going to sell you on this idea of the Pac-12 network. And, you know, there are certain ways that you can get closer to some of these other giant conferences. But at the end of the day, it's not a guarantee. And I think that's why we still haven't seen much movement in terms of the deal being finalized.
Yeah, I retweeted something from Stuart Mandel this morning. He said, Larry Scott, exactly what you're saying, sold the schools on the Pac-12 network based on how much revenue they could hit based on a low, high, medium projection subscriber, tiers thing, which is what they're talking about. It turned out to be below the low projection. So it's hard to imagine schools making another risky bet on a newish platform. And yeah, so this is a really interesting conversation to have in itself about how we're kind of transitioning. This is a conversation that I had with Mandel when he was on the show, actually, how I feel like we're just kind of in this middle ground of streaming and, TV. Like most people our age, and especially everybody younger, like they don't use cable.
Yeah.
And they don't have these, they might have access to, a direct TV or something, but they don't use cable. And the other half of the world, probably even more than half, is still using cable and they barely use streaming. So when like the culture shock of the Amazon Thursday Night Football thing set in and people are like, what channel is it on? Grandpa, it's not on a channel. You have to, go to the,
yeah,
and it's like,
it was a culture change.
Yeah. And we're plus, I just don't think that like people had issues with the Amazon, like because it was buffering, if your Wi-Fi signal's not strong enough, it's not going to work.
There are issues with it.
And so I feel like we just don't have enough technology to get there completely in every single household yet. But we're also it's archaic to just use cable.
Yeah.
And it's archaic to just use this. So we're in this weird middle ground. And I mean, it's just a shitty time to be negotiating a Pac-12 media rights deal at the end of the day. And yeah, as you said about the Big 12 numbers, obviously that number way higher than what ASU's projected number is. But also last year, they're not just like projecting it. Last year, the number they paid out to all the schools was 41 something million, like higher than their projection is this year because of the addition of schools. But like they have a proven success with it. So it's really interesting from a pure technology perspective. But when you get into the weeds of it and stay in our conference, it's getting a little hairy here.
Yeah, and it's not just obviously the Pac-12 media rights deal. The Arizona Board of Regents expected to meet. It's 2:08 now on Tuesday. They're expected to meet here in just about an hour and a half. So we'll see what comes from that meeting. We know what came from the last second Colorado Regents meeting. So it's certainly going to be interesting, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I do want to pull up Pete Thamel's other tweet that he had just kind of in this thread as to why and really the expectations of when we could see something done, or I guess what's holding back really this deal. And the tweet says, no decisions on the deal or any schools pondering other options are expected immediately. Campus leaders are digesting the possibilities of a stream-centric future, and the variance in potential income. The money piece is tricky because of the variables of subscriptions. And the shitty thing about this, right, when you're dealing with subscriptions versus the media rights deal that some of these other conferences have, right, is it's obviously laid out contractually of what these universities and schools are going to be getting in terms of subscriptions. Obviously, there is the incentive. Well, I'm going to struggle with the word incentivized. The incentivized tiers of subscriptions. It's tough because odds are you're not going to meet that number with the universities that you have in this conference. No. You could have sold that idea to the conference, I think, as a whole, when you still had the LA markets, when you still had Deion Sanders in your conference. At this point, now you're really risking it, because if this is the best deal that there is out there right now for the Pac-12, then I think this is most certainly a point in time where you are going to see the Pac-12 start to crumble, because it's already the worst deal of the Power Five. And I know that is something that is going to be hanging over George Kliavkoff for, I guess, the rest of his tenure, however long that's going to be. But I'm going to be real. Like, this is something that we've been talking about for months now. This is something that we were talking about before really Colorado was pegged as a team that would leave to the Big 12. This was something
we were talking about before USC and UCLA left.
They've had their time.
Yeah.
And they've wasted it. And part of that could be, I guess, wasting it. And the other part of it is they're waiting for a better deal. But part of Kliavkoff's job in terms of getting this deal done is making sure that it is best for the conference and these universities. And they just waited too long. And now this is like,
Yeah.
This is what you've got, and it doesn't look good, Shane.
Well, and I think one of the biggest things and why people are so shaky on this is, you know, obviously there has been instability in the conference for so long. In the last year specifically, it's ramped up, but you wanted a deal that screamed stability, and this doesn't even whisper it.
No.
You're giving teams tiers and what they need to reach. Like, this feels like a school drive when you're selling chocolate bars going door to door because you need to fund this field trip. And sorry, George, I don't know if we want to go on this field trip anymore. I don't know if we want to ride the Pac-12 bus and Pac-9, whatever it's going to be. And yeah, it bottom line is it doesn't scream stability, and that's not great. And the dream stability, the stabilized future of the conference isn't paying out as much as you would hope.
I don't even think it's for stability at this point. I think if we would have had this conversation in the summer, and we did, it was about stability in the future, especially after the LA schools left talking about expansion. They're not even talking about expansion right now. Right now, the discussion is how the hell do we keep this thing together from falling apart? Because 2 weeks ago, it was just a rumor that Colorado was leaving. You fast forward to now, there's an Arizona Board of Regents meeting again in less than an hour and a half now, and you could be looking at, okay, we don't have much of a conference left anymore, because at that point, a fourth of your conference that you've had is gone. Who knows if Arizona State and Arizona are tied together? It sounds like Oregon and Washington are tied together. What does that leave you with? A bunch of teams that don't really move the needle athletically, that realistically are probably going to bounce somewhere else too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good comments that I want to get to. A lot specifically about Apple. Connor earlier says, I hope Apple hires these people to host, and Messi and MLB and Pac. And I think that's an interesting thing to say, because the trajectory for Apple TV, and I think, like, put Pac-12 networks aside, because what it would be, to my knowledge, is an add-on subscription you would have to buy after you get Apple TV Plus, whatever. But like Apple TV in general, I think, especially once they start to acquire live TV rights, I think it's going to do well, and I think it eventually will. But I don't know if the Pac-12 would do well on Apple TV. So that's a really interesting thing, because the pure MLS rights is great, and there's a lot of leagues and a lot of uncertainty for streaming, and a lot of teams that can be centralized if in an Apple TV package, and I think that can work in certain markets, but the Pac-12 isn't really one that I like. There's just not a lot of faith in that, and so. Yeah, and Reza, this is another good point that he brings up. He says, are you able to watch Apple TV at sports bars? Like, how does that work with subscriptions? That's something I've always thought about too, and that goes back to my point about being kind of in the middle age. Like, they're able to get UFC cards on there pretty easily, and that's with ESPN Plus now, so I would assume so. But a lot of, like, some places, no, you're not going to be able to do that. You go to an older bar in the Midwest, they have cable still. Like,
I remember being in the Midwest just trying to get the Pac-12 network. That was hell.
The Pac-12 network is one of the most elusive things ever.
Jason Scheer, who's kind of, I guess, at the forefront in terms of some of this conference realignment stuff, specifically as it's tied to the Arizona schools and Arizona specifically.
Twitter fingers must be tired. He's been on a roll.
he had a really interesting tweet and just idea of this that I want to get your opinion on. Of, if this is the best deal that Kliavkoff and the Pac-12 have, and the schools come back and they say this isn't enough, now what? How does this deal get better? Can it get better? Or is this quite literally the last effort that we're going to see from the Pac-12?
Well, I mean, coming into this, we kind of heard that this was the kind of Hail Mary. And
their Hail Mary wasn't really Hail Mary. No. It was like a 5-yard hitch route.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do it. It was like if Tua threw the ball from his own 20. It's not getting to the end zone. It's just not. I like you, Tua, George. Not getting to the end zone. It didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to learn a lot after
this Regents meeting here.
Hopefully.
We'll talk about that.
It could also just mean nothing.
Here in a second, but the final question just on the media numbers that we've got, and obviously Kliavkoff proposing this. If the Pac-12 dies, and realistically, again, this wasn't necessarily a conversation that we were having legitimately 2-3 weeks ago, but now you have to have this conversation. If the Pac-12 dissolves, at the end of the day, is it on George Kliavkoff or is it on Larry Scott?
I think it's unfair depending on one person. I would probably lean more to Scott, just because of as I said, the burning house metaphor. I think that it was so hard to save, and I don't think he did a great job saving it. But I also just think it was just a really hard situation in general. Yeah, Joe in the chat pointed out, when the original deal was signed in 2011, the logic of owning all rights and heading down the streaming route was sound. The conference missed that mark by about 5 years. The ironic thing about realignment is the TV networks dictating the changes, and those same networks may not be the big players when the next contracts come up. I don't think the forward thinking was enough. I don't think they had enough.
That is really what bugs me. And it's not just the Pac-12, but it's Arizona State specifically. A university that everybody wants to talk about is the fact that it's number one in innovation, right? And the Pac-12 tries to be, quote unquote, tries to be forward thinking and trying to really take things to the next level. But at what point do you just look stupid? Like that's exactly what George Kliavkoff looks right now. After presenting the media rights deal or numbers, when it falls well short of even the worst of the Power 5 deals, you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
You look like a jackass that was really out of your league in terms of trying to get this conference any sort of stability. And now you're seriously at the risk of the Power 5 not being a thing anymore. You got the Power 4.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll see the kind of movement that you get in there. Tony brings up the idea of, should U of A take ASU with them? I don't know if it is necessarily even like that kind of a conversation of like U of A taking ASU.
You missed the part about
the little brother. Yeah, no, I just read right past that. I don't even know if it's so much of that. It's going to be every man fighting for themselves, I think, at a certain point.
Yeah. I also think there's such a pride thing going on right now, and that's why it's so
between Arizona and ASU.
But yeah, or between ASU and themselves. It's just I'm really worried that the people that need to make the right decisions aren't going to make the right decisions, and the right decision is to leave.
Oh yeah,
right now.
I think it's been the right decision.
You know what else is the right decision? Liking the video. Hit that little plus button.
Almost 80 people in here, and just
for Bobby.
Do it for Bobby, guys.
Even if you're a U of A guy, you like Bobby because you make the joke on Twitter all the time. You want him to stay.
This is Bobby after hearing the media rights numbers.
Yeah,
this is his reaction. That's all we could do,
bro.
That's all we could do, George. Look,
I saw some more clips of them.
Of what?
In Greece, dude. Kamari lands iso ball.
He's a bucket. Look, I do want to talk about the Arizona Board of Regents meeting because it is set to happen here in just a little bit. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at OG's. Guys, if you haven't tried the pink lemonade gummies, you are definitely...
I think everybody needs to take an OG's right now.
You're missing out. You're missing out. The pink lemonade gummies.
Take an OG's. We'll get to your question in a second.
Chill out.
Take an OG's.
They are the best flavored gummies out there. Look, I was a big fan of the orange creamsicle, and I still am, but the pink lemonade definitely takes the cake in terms of my favorite flavor. It's, if you're not, I guess, the kind of person that wants to take an OG's and just, I don't know, watch a movie, play video games, I understand it. But maybe you have a tough time sleeping like I do. Not a giant fan of taking melatonin because I wake up groggy. It takes too long to really hit. Guys,
take an OG's and watch the Board of Regents meeting.
Oh my God.
You might laugh.
That sounds like hell, to be honest with you. Aquaberry Sleep Edition gummies, those are the ones for you guys. You're going to take it. You're going to fall asleep beautifully. Maybe even have some cool dreams. I don't know. I have really awesome dreams when I take OGs.
One of our viewers DM'd me and said he had a dream that ASU picked off Caleb Williams twice and upset USC.
Maybe
I was like, that's a great team.
Maybe that's less of a dream and more of like what's to come. Yeah, you never know. Guys,
house call.
Highly recommend you check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local display. You do got to be 21 years or older though to purchase.
Yeah, take an OGs, and if you're not a THC, if you don't subscribe to THC, subscribe to some beer. Four Peaks, best beer in the valley, best beer on the road, best beer in general. It's fantastic, guys. If you haven't had Four Peaks yet, try it out. 8th Street Pub, get their chicken tendies. I went to Chicago this weekend, and I flew out of Sky Harbor, and at Sky Harbor they have a Four Peaks in Terminal 4.
Airport beer underrated.
No, airport beer is perfectly rated. Everybody knows it's the best beer. So yeah, guys, check out Four Peaks at Four Peaks Brewer at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Plus, they got the Four Peaks draft room for the Diamondbacks games. Wonderful spot to watch games. But you got to be 21 years or older to drink Four Peaks, and please drink responsibly.
It's peach ale season, guys.
It is peach ale season. All right, I want to get to Connor's comment earlier about Apple TV. Where was that?
Okay. Well, he was talking about the
you can make 40 mil in the Apple TV deal. Will like we sign up?
Yeah.
Would let's be honest, this is our job. We got to
We'll
watch
have
the
to.
game somehow. So yes, but think about it as a fan. Chat, like, are you signing up? Of course, you got to watch the game. You have to watch the game. So I think that you could make a good amount of money. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. I just don't know if the fan bases are as ravenous as people think they are, and especially with the schools remaining. I think that this not only shows a lack of confidence in the leadership, but it also just shows of like a sense of abandonment within Pac-12 fans. Like, I'm sick of this. Like,
yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
It's certainly an interesting thing. And again, I think the majority of real ASU fans, and I guess really anybody in the conference that really have a passion and a dedication to the program, the university, the team, the players, whatever, they're going to do what it takes. It may be a little tricky at first, but again, I don't think putting that on the fans that shouldn't have to be on them, right? Like, I know it's a little bit of a culture shift in terms of streaming and all that other stuff, but not only it would be different if the SEC and the Big Ten and even the Big 12 were the front runners in terms of really trying to get this streaming thing going. At this point, the streaming service part of this all feels so much less than a move toward the future and just kind of like, this is what we can get. Mm-hmm. Like, it just doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth. And I don't think that, again, it should be on fans to have to change the way that they want to watch their team. And that's what it's come down to, because Kliavkoff and the Pac-12 has been lazy and irresponsible and naive in their efforts to try and get a real deal done to provide this conference with any sort of stability.
I also think, like, look, the way that it was handled, saying that there was a deal and that we're just waiting because it's getting better and better. If that was the case before Colorado left and this was the Apple TV deal, one, you're either lying, or two, they knew that Colorado wasn't going to approve of this.
No. And George Kliavkoff lied through his fucking teeth at Pac-12 Media Day when he was asked point blank if a Pac-12 media rights deal was done. And his response was to the reporter that they were reading too much into it. This came right after Kliavkoff said that they're specifically not announcing a deal because they want the focus to be on football. Well, guess what? If the deal was done and everybody was on board, then you wouldn't be presenting a deal today, and Colorado probably wouldn't have left last week. So he lied through his teeth, or this magical done deal fell through the cracks.
Or the deal wasn't good enough, which I think is probably the case. A lot of people saying, I'll sign up, but I'm not going to enjoy it. I'll sign up, but I'm going to be mad. It's like Pac-12 Network. Like, when it was available not on DirecTV, I was like, I'll find a way to watch it, but I'm not going to be happy about it.
And even if you like try and find a way to make it happen, that doesn't make it any easier to do.
The one thing that I will like, though, is if this comes to it, because it definitely could, this interface is a lot better.
Yeah.
So,
it's just going to take time. And I think this is a giant if it gets done, because up until yesterday, there wasn't an ABOR meeting scheduled. Yeah. And all of a sudden, there's an Arizona Board of Regents meeting scheduled, again, at this point, in about an hour to kick things off. And odds are they're going to be talking about conference realignment. The Arizona Board of Regents has control over Arizona and Arizona State. And up until yesterday, and I had this conversation with Saul about, I don't think that Arizona State would leave unless they had to. And I think you are at a point now, after seeing the deal, if you want to call it that it is starting to turn to a point of no return for not only ASU, but for Arizona, for Utah, for Oregon, for Washington, for all of these schools. It is now seriously going to be a point of no return. And I think that is certainly something that gets brought up in this Board of Regents meeting tonight. I think another thing that gets brought up, and to Tony's point earlier about, does U of A take Arizona State? it's more of like, okay, how do we get these schools and these presidents on the same page to really, I mean, make a leap? Or how do they survive? Right? And I think the best possible solution is they survive together. I know there's pettiness, and I think that in reality is on fans. I don't think there is that level of pettiness between the presidents and the athletic directors and anybody else in the administration, as much as maybe people would like to think that is out there. But I think you may not have a foregone solution in conclusion to Arizona and Arizona State potentially leaving the Pac-12 by the end of this Board of Regents meeting. But I think you certainly will have a better idea as to if they're going to be in this together or if one school is going to be trying to lean one way.
Yeah, Cardinals and Michael Crow in the chat. It's going to be embarrassing if the only reason we joined the Big 12 is because, quote, U of A has to take us with them, in my humble opinion. I don't think that's going to be the reason for anything happening, but I get why you're saying that, because I think there's people that will see it that way. But
does it matter at that point?
It does not matter. It 100%
like if you have to take one of those cheap, shitty buses that leave like a sketchy gas station or whatever.
Amtrak from Centralia to Chicago.
You're still in Chicago.
It sucks, but you're still
in Chicago.
Still got there. Like,
nobody's going to remember that 10, 15 years from now.
No one's going to remember that one. Well, okay, let's talk about, because we're most of the time we're talking about this is, I think most of the people in the chat, ASU and UA fans, want to get out and go to the Pac, especially after this. Well, let's just say that things don't go well. And things
don't go well at the Regents meeting?
No, with Arizona State.
Okay.
And they just decide to stay. Let's talk about what the future of this would be if they're forced to just accept this. Not forced to, but they force themselves into accepting this Apple TV deal, and they do stay behind. The Pac isn't dead.
It's pretty damn close.
I don't think it's dead. But
if I think, and this is another thing that I talked to Saul about yesterday, I don't think it's dead if Arizona leaves by itself. The conference is certainly dead if Oregon and Washington get up to leave.
Yeah.
But if Arizona leaves by itself and there isn't any other movement, then I don't think it's dead. But I don't see a way where Arizona leaves and then you are at 8 teams now, and that Oregon and Washington aren't sitting there like, okay, well, like, let's be real. We have better athletic programs than Colorado and Arizona, and we can go get money in the Big 10 or the Big 12.
Yeah. Well, let's say Arizona leaves, and then that's it.
Okay.
And Arizona State does stay, and that's the reality, and that's a Pac-9 or,
It'd be 8.
If Arizona leaves?
Yeah, because you've already lost the LA schools. You lost Colorado and U of A.
Okay, let's say the Pac-8's here.
Okay.
And the
Pac-8 is here.
So the numbers that they presented for incoming schools, like SDSU and SMU, who are, not making as much money, they would make less money than most of the Pac-12 schools, but they'd be making more than what they're making right now. I guess SMU is not the best for that, but SDSU and Boise State, they'd be making more than what they're making now. And that brings them into the conference if this deal gets done and there's a little bit of stability at least. Do you feel like okay after that if it gets to the Pac-10 again?
If you're talking, if U of A leaves and they bring on Boise State or just San Diego State.
2 schools of the similar.
No, because I feel like...
I know it's not... I mean, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't be happy, but...
Look,
the conference isn't dead.
I think it's not dead, but it is...
Circle in the drain?
It's on life support. Like SDSU and Boise State doesn't move the needle by any means. In terms of, I guess, keeping the conference together, it gets that job done. But you're just, again, a laughing stock to the rest of college athletics because you are always going to be known as one of the 8 programs that opted to pretty much just sit on your hands and let the Pac-12 continue to really fizzle out. Like, you have the opportunities. People are leaving.
Look, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just
what do you think? And that's
playing devil's advocate.
I know it is tough to do because we're not sitting in on these meetings, right? I'm not Michael Crow, if you didn't know. But like, what do you think is going through his head when he sees something like this? Obviously, it is so wildly different for coaches. And Kenny was asked about that earlier today, and he's like, no, like, when I'm in the football mindset, he was talking about he texted 87 kids from the class of 2025 this morning, called 7 of them on his way to work, had practice, all that stuff.
87 kids?
He's not focused on he doesn't have the time to be worried about which conference Arizona State is going to be playing in. But Ray Anderson, Michael Crow, this is at the front of the docket. This is something that's really on their mind. Like, I am trying to think of a reason for Arizona State. If U of A leaves, why am I staying here? And if it's not for a deal that makes significant sense, then I seriously can't think of another reason other than you're scared to leave.
Yeah, no. Like there's no reason. It's a pride thing at that point. Or you've talked yourself into a circle and you're just it'll be fine. It's fine if I stay, right? It'll be fine. Like there is no good reason. There is like it's just I think it's such a lost cause now. And Cardinal Sin brings it up. Wonder what Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, and Stanford are going to do. Like you could always be in a worse situation. I just I feel for those schools and the fans of those schools because they're kind of in purgatory right now. And I'm not trying to like talk smack, especially with Connor in the chat. But I just I genuinely am curious as to what like their outlook on this is. Like, are they just hoping that somebody comes along, or the Pac is fine? And
I think at that point they go to the Mountain West. Does the Mountain West expand? Because you're not going to see all those teams leave the Mountain West, right? That's something that I have seen on Twitter that I don't think people truly grasp. Is if the Pac-12, let's say the Pac-12 loses ASU, Utah, and U of A, because I do want to get to that in a second, because Pete Thamel had an article about those 3 teams and programs all being linked together in a potential move.
Said a very brief part about it. In an article about something else, but yes.
If that were to happen and the Pac-9 were to lose 3 more schools, you'd be down to 6. There is no realistic scenario where the Pac-12 adds 4 to 6 schools from the Mountain West. Why? Because it's what you've seen already with San Diego State play out over the last month, where they've now got a $34 million buyout. The Pac-12 can't front all these schools that money to get out. The Pac-12 can't even get a decent media deal together. So at that point, then you're looking at the remaining 6 teams, which would be what? Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, and I'm missing one because and Washington State. Those 4 teams probably hop over to the Mountain West, or again, spread themselves out within the ACC, the Big 10, WCC, the Big 12.
WAC,
yeah,
Big Sky.
You never know. Washington, Oregon probably make their way to the Big 10, which is again another rumor. And then you seriously don't have a conference. You don't have a conference at all, because the conference can't afford to get all of these teams and programs out of their current deals. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah. So it really is. Again, 2 weeks ago, this was a rumor, and it
still is a rumor.
Well, no, I'm talking Colorado and the Pac-12 media rights.
Well,
like 2 weeks ago, we were just talking about when are we getting a media rights deal, and like at this point, 2 weeks later, you're like, we might not get a media rights deal because the Pac-12 might be dead. Yeah, like that is a serious conversation.
I love all of the comments about what would happen, about Mountain West, about the Mountain West absorbing the teams.
Cal could dissolve football. I thought I heard.
Cal could dissolve football. Oh no, that's sad actually. I love Connor's comment. Cal and Stanford would force the Mountain West elite to come over to the Pac. They're not playing with the Mountain West logo on their chest.
Glenn with a great one. Remaining 6 should kick one out and be sponsored by Five Guys. The Five Guys conference.
There we go.
That would be absolutely incredible.
Also, I'm still holding out for college football Pangea. It's going to happen. I'm coining that phrase. Please just break it up into something that makes sense. And I think that even if you're in this 5-year purgatory of no media rights deal, you're in a weird conference, you move to the Mountain West, the Mountain West comes to Pac, and the Pac is doing the Apple TV thing. I think in 5 to 10 years, shit's going to change again. And all of a sudden,
it's all leaning toward 2 giant conferences or 1 giant conference.
We got 5 new conferences. I don't know if the SEC is ever going to, because they're just making so much money, but especially with college football, with the new revenue that's going to come from the 16-team expansion for the playoff, so much is going to change. I don't know. That's heard a rumor of Stanford going Ivy. Take a shot every time there's a rumor.
Marcus might hurt the Five Guys brand. Honestly, David with an interesting point here. ASU goes now from a position of strength, staying in any option from there is a position of weakness. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think at this point you have a hand to play. If you let your rival walk and you stay put in this conference, anything else is less of your decision and more of kind of what happens around you. And I think that certainly leaves a lasting imprint of, I guess, the legacy of the Pac-12, of Michael Crow, the rest of the administration. When you look back 10, 15, 20 years from now as to why college football is laid out and college athletics in general, because this doesn't just impact Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State football. It impacts Bobby Hurley, basketball, Willie Bloomquist, baseball, and all of these other major programs. You're going to look back, and this could be the lasting legacy of Ray Anderson and Michael Crow of, did they make a move when they had the opportunity, or did they sit back and let the Pac-12 really, I guess, not take control, but did they just let it shit itself?
Whoa.
That's what it's doing.
Like inadvertently let it take control. They surrendered their own control by letting their pride swallow them, is what I think would happen. And yeah, it's just it's really annoying. You know what just happened?
What?
In the last minute, my stomach started hurting.
Oh, did it?
And because of this.
Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to tell you about something that's not going to make your stomach hurt, and that's Burrito Express. It's actually going to make your tummy feel phenomenal.
I have never felt more tummy happy than
after Burrito
Express. Yeah.
Guys, if you haven't been to Burrito Express, get on it. They got locations all over the valley. Get in the Burrito Express location.
Don't go on top of the Burrito Express.
Get the burrito in you.
Yes. But don't jump on top of the Burrito Express. Don't jump on your burrito.
Okay.
Don't jump on any of the employees.
Definitely don't do any of that.
Definitely
Guys,
don't do that.
Burrito Express, it's the best hub in the valley for breakfast burritos.
It is a hub. It's a station. It's a center point.
It's a center point.
It's a crossroads.
You got one more in you?
It's a culinary crossroads.
Burrito Express, a culinary crossroads of tasty goodness. Mm-hmm. Guys, they got plenty of options and, again, locations all over the valley. So there's bound to be one near you. Go check out Burrito Express and give them a follow on social at BurritoEXP.
Yeah, and it's, as Glenn says, it's officially August. Summer's over. Football is here. Let's go. When is it spring?
It's not spring. It's summertime, dog.
It's still summer.
Spring doesn't come after summer either.
It's summer.
Yeah.
It's been summer since June.
Glenn confused me. Glenn, that's your fault. All I'm trying to say is, football's almost here, and we can bet on it soon. So, guys, download BetMGM if you haven't yet. Even if you're not in Arizona, download BetMGM and use our bonus code PHNX when you sign up. It's not just a normal sports betting app. It's the best sports betting app, the king of sports books. Guys, BetMGM is where you should go to place all of your futures, all of your bets. You can bet on so much in the NFL and college football already, so just make sure to go ahead and download that app. Sign up for BetMGM and use that bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if it loses. So, when that lofty spread comes out of ASU hosting Southern Utah, maybe throw $1,000 on that and you can get your bonus bet back if they don't cover, but I bet they will. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to me talk about the disclaimer. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 Nevada. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Kansas, Nevada, New York, or Ontario.
All right, let's talk about what Pete Thamel had to say in the article.
Can we talk about Bobby Hurley?
What about him?
I'm just joshing.
You want to talk about? Oh, dude, crazy
Bobby boy,
crazy moment. Real quick, I will say, before we move on to this idea of these three programs being together, you said just joshing. Have you seen Oppenheimer yet?
No.
Okay. It's not a spoiler, but I just got to let you know something that's wild. Josh Peck is in that movie.
That's elite.
It was the biggest surprise. The biggest surprise of that movie was Josh Peck being in it.
He's been in a lot of surprising roles. Like, he just pops up in movies. I'm like, whoa.
Oh, go see that movie, and after you see his role, it'll blow your mind.
I was planning on it. I was planning on seeing it with somebody, but they saw it without me, so it's whatever.
Who saw it?
Nothing. I did this on bets already. Let's talk about the four corners.
Well, the three that are going to go together at this point. Potentially.
Yeah.
ASU, U of A, and Utah banding together. So there's
you ever been to the four corners?
No. Have you?
I think so. Unless it was a weird dream. I think I did. That'd be a weird thing to dream about.
And that would be a weird thing to bring with like you on a daily basis.
That I remembered that you remembered
that you remembered a dream like that.
Yeah,
that didn't have that much significance. That'd be like if I went to like I don't know, like a random Subway one time in Missouri.
Connor's comment up. We're done talking about Oppenheimer. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the excerpt from Pete Thamel's article talking about these three of the remaining four corner schools that could potentially leave. Okay, so he said, quote, "That's why sources say Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah, the Pac-12's remaining three of the so-called four corner schools, are expected to lump their futures together." He also goes on in that article to say that none of the universities specifically and individually want to split up the Pac-12. But if they all leave together, that nobody's really to blame at this point. What do you think about those three schools lumping their future together?
It makes sense. Colorado and Utah, rivals. ASU and U of A, rivals. I love things that make sense. And they're, you know what? You know what else they are? They're farthest to the east.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Look, I think any train that Arizona State can get on with either the rival in Arizona basketball specifically or with Utah, I would be totally content if Arizona State opted to go whatever route Utah went, simply because we know what Utah brings and has to offer any of these other conferences. Obviously, in terms of other athletics, they don't blow people away, but to sell out what they do in terms of football year after year after year in a top 35 market is certainly, I think, something that other conferences, specifically the Big 12, they're keeping that in mind, right? And if Utah and Arizona State are linked together, and Utah says, "Hey, we're only leaving with them," the Big 12 is going to say, "Come here, buddy. Come here, Ray. Come right here.
Uppies. Come here.
Uppies. I'll hold you, Ray.
Hey, Angel. Let's be nice. You can make fun of us, but don't make fun of the Beebs. The Beebs are very nice. We don't make fun of the Beebs here. Okay?
Or Connor.
I'm going to put you in timeout.
We love Connor.
I'm going to put you in timeout here, Angel. And yeah, the Yotes low-key, they high-key have Colorado's number. I mean, they dominate them. I'm excited that there's at least one more year to see what Colorado basketball could do and Utah basketball. Because if this does end up happening in a dream scenario and those four schools do go to the Big 12, then that would be fun, especially for basketball, because I feel like all four of these teams are on the up. I mean, ASU has figured it out a little bit. They definitely had a better year than they have had in the past last year. Utah as well. Utah was the team to beat in the conference at the start of the year. Colorado has the biggest turnaround from year to year coming into this year. And ASU obviously is ASU.
Reza brings it up, right? BYU, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, ASU, TCU, Texas Tech would be a fun, competitive Big 12 West.
Yeah, you can't sell me on a NorCal school playing in the Big 12, but you can sell me on a Utah and even ASU and Arizona in terms of geography.
Look,
I'm fine with that. There's a lot of trains that head eastward too.
In terms of
I'm a big train guy now. I don't know if you know this.
You're a big train guy now?
Train guy.
Okay.
If you're playing in Lubbock, take the train.
Big Polar Express guy? Or? No? That's a train.
Don't take the train, actually.
Don't take the train. Okay.
Fly.
Look, this is something that I will say, and it's off that Reza comment. It would be a fun, competitive Big 12 West. At this point, even adding SDSU and Boise State, it doesn't bring any excitement from the remaining schools. It obviously brings excitement for SDSU and Boise State getting to play these Power 5 schools that they don't always get the opportunity to play year after year. But if I'm Arizona State, if I'm Utah, if I'm Oregon, if I'm Washington, adding these schools as opposed to leaving, in terms of football specifically, greatly impacts your chances at being a college football playoff team. If I am Oregon and I'm weighing my options, if I'm Utah and I'm weighing my options, the two schools, you could even throw in Washington, two schools that you could argue at least in the next couple of years have any sort of future toward potentially being a college football playoff team. Adding SDSU and Boise State as 2 more conference games hurts your strength of schedule every single year.
Yeah.
It at that point, money aside from the media deal, you have to look at it from a competitive advantage, and moving to the Big 12 where you get to play teams that are consistently in the top 25 helps you.
Sorry, we'll get to that in a little bit. One thing that 100% you can't do in Pac-12 football, you can't make the college football playoff if you lose 2 games. You just can't. That's just not how it works. You can maybe make it if you lose 1. You can't make it if you lose 2. In the Big 12, you could lose 2 and make it.
Yeah,
100%.
And that goes the same way in terms of Big 12 basketball, right? Like, it only boosts your stock in terms of the AP top 25, your strength of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, in basketball for sure. That's why, I mean, we talked about this for sure. Bobby Hurley would want to be in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Because those 21-10 seasons, 21-11, 21-12, whatever, 20-13, even 20-13. Like, remember the selection show we did? Some of the people in the chat weren't here. Remember the selection show? We were like, this Big 10 team was 18-12, and they're a 6th seed. Why is that? Strength of schedule. And if you play in the Big 12, that is the strengthiest schedule. That is the strongest schedule. That was crazy. Wow. The strongest schedule that you could play. Gerald's turning over in his grave right now, even though he's alive and sitting next to me.
Wannikin, can the Big 12 wake up the ASU football sleeping giant?
Stop.
The only reason
if you say sleeping giant in this chat, you're banned.
I'm going to bring this up because I think if you move to the Big 12, I think it wipes away the narrative of that Arizona State is a sleeping giant. Because I think it is a clean slate at that point. You've obviously still got the market, but nobody at that point. If Arizona State moves to the Big 12, the expectations aren't there immediately. Your expectations of Arizona State being this wild, like, out from under the bed monster is not really going to happen. Like, the reason that's not going to happen is because guess what? The Big 12 already has their Arizona State and Texas Tech. Like, I think they're going to understand the expectations, and they're going to have a team and a program that really mirrors them. So I don't think the wild expectations or the idea that Arizona State is a sleeping giant will really continue to exist. And that is just my personal opinion. Could be wrong.
If Arizona State's a sleeping giant, they snore like this.
Isn't that how SpongeBob sleeps?
I don't know. It's just how, like, cartoon giants sleep. Yeah. Bobby does very well against Big 12 competition. Well,
but how does he do against conference competition?
Well, I mean, I did lose to a Big 12 team. Mike Miles, you are.
Stop it.
A good player.
He is. Guys, before we get out of here, I want to tell you guys a little bit about Illegal Pete's. A shout out Illegal Pete's for the taco bar that they brought to the office yesterday. Bo said it best. There's nothing like being out in the heat all morning and then being starving and coming back to Illegal Pete's.
Yeah.
Guys, you can be out in the heat, and instead of having to make that drive back to our studios to eat Illegal Pete's, you can just head to their Tempe location, get yourself some high noons, maybe a margarita, some tacos. It is Taco Tuesday, and just have a blast. Their food is awesome. The guac is great. The queso is great. Also, for all the regulars in this chat, they know I'm lactose intolerant. I think I may have beat it. I think I may have beaten the cheese. Okay?
That's crazy.
I'm going to try the queso. I'm going to let you know how it goes. If I'm not here tomorrow, it was a rough day. And I have not beaten lactose intolerance. But
the queso's worth it.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. It absolutely is, guys. Illegal Pete's is your go-to spot this summer. Kick back and enjoy an ice-cold marg or cool off with a bucket of high noons, 5 high noons for just $22. And don't forget to follow @Illegal Pete's on Instagram to stay updated on all their big events and deals going down this summer. Stay tuned on their stories to win free tickets to the concerts you are dying to see. Illegal Pete's is here to make this summer one for the books.
And Sam in the chat says it best. One of the biggest reasons they're excited to go back to school is because of Illegal Pete's. We love it. The Diamondbacks did something.
Did they? What
they just traded for Tommy Pham.
Oh yeah,
so that's fun.
Look at that.
Yeah, wasn't he the one that got hit by Pete Alonso? I think he got slapped by Pete Alonso.
I don't
know. So maybe there's some Tommy Pham bobbleheads at FOCO, or maybe not. Maybe you can get a sun hat because it's summertime at FOCO to wear at the Arizona Diamondbacks games to watch some Tommy Pham ball. Guys, it's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. And as I said, it's baseball season, so go ahead and get those Aloha shirts, those straw hats, those polos, those bags, everything you need for the game, sitting at the draft room at Four Peaks with a nice FOCO hat on. There's nothing better. FOCO always has our back for Arizona sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by visiting www.foco.com and using code PHNX for all non-presale items. Use that promo code PHNX for 10% off. Oh, he slapped Jock Peterson. That's who it was. Anything else from the chat? So what happens to the Pac-12 if UA and or ASU leaves? Who does the Pac-12 go after?
I mean, the obvious options are SDSU and Boise State. But again, like I said on yesterday's show, SDSU has become wildly more slippery because they owe $34 million if they were to leave. The only way I see that really happening, I don't see SDSU paying that $34 million on their own. I think Kliavkoff and the Pac-12 would have to come in and help them out a little bit. Otherwise, I just don't know if there's enough real incentive for SDSU to make that jump. There was before it got doubled, and you know, when there were reports of an invitation kind of waiting for them. But at this point, again, I don't know. We are, I think, going to learn more after this Arizona Board of Regents meeting, which starts here in about a half an hour.
We might be live again.
Potentially. We'll see what happens. Stay locked in. Follow us at PHNX _Sun Devils.
Before we get out of
yes,
here, I want to have a quick 2-3 minute conversation about what Connor brought up. Or was it Beep? Who was it? Somebody brought it up. About ASU having the chance to be the top dog in basketball in this conference.
In the Big 12 or
in the Pac if Arizona left.
If Arizona leaves, they're not though.
Well,
they wouldn't.
They have a chance though.
But if let's say
ASU,
they do if they don't add anybody.
Well, yeah, but I mean, who are they adding that's going to move the needle in basketball?
I mean, SDSU they made a run.
Yeah, well, but that's the conversation.
What if the Pac adds Gonzaga?
Well, then they don't.
But then they're not.
But still, it is an interesting thing to think about.
I don't know if they're.
That's one of the only fun things I can think about. Then he goes on to say, obviously, I was talking about basketball, not baseball.
If they're the top dog, I don't know if it would be less of a top dog and more of like they're a couple of pound puppies.
No, they'd be the.
No, they wouldn't.
Stop it. Stop.
They wouldn't be top dog. What makes you say they'd be top dog?
I'm talking about in the conference.
Yeah, in terms of basketball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They have it over Stanford. They have it over Cal. They have it over Oregon State. They have it over Washington.
No, I'm not saying they would. I'm saying they have the chance to be. It's an interesting.
Yeah, they have the chance to be.
It's an interesting thing to think about, and that would be one of the few things. So if anything goes south in the meeting, there's something you can think about. They have the chance to be the best in the conference.
Just pack your bags and head to the Big 12.
It's such a sad thing.
Let's make a decision toward forward thinking and be on the right side of history here, as opposed to keeping our ass glued to George Kliavkoff's shit Apple TV deal. But I guess we'll see.
That
what
was
happens.
a crazy sentence that I thought was going somewhere completely different. I'm glad it didn't. Woo,
guys, stay locked in. Again, follow us on PHNX _Sun Devils. Before you get out of here, hit that like button. Okay? Don't leave Bobby Hurley hanging.
Somebody retracted their dislike, and I appreciate that.
There we go. Guys, you can follow me at Anthony _Totri. You could follow Big Pokey over here at Shane Deef.
Well, trying to take as many modes of transportation to the Big 12 as always.
Again, we will for sure see you Wednesday at 2 p.m. But depending on how this Arizona Board of Regents meeting goes, we could see you sooner than that. But for now, guys, peace.
Planes, trains, and Big Pokey.